This strange creature attacked Toby in Shenandoah National Park during their hike up Old Rag. He took this picture right before the attack happened. His friend Nick sent me this story to stories@dread.army. Now stick around because I'm going to analyze this photo a little later. Let's hear what he had to say. Hi Donovan. This happened last spring, but I never saw your channel until last week. I'm glad I found you so I can spread the word. I've got proof that these creatures really do exist. Enclosed is a picture my buddy snapped right before he got attacked. Now the authorities are trying to cover it up. Here's what happened. Me and Toby are both experienced hikers. We've always wanted to do the Old Rag mountain hike in Virginia at Shenandoah. It's like a bucket list thing. We both finally got some time off work and decided to go for it. The thing about this trail is they don't allow you to camp above 2,800 feet, and the summit is just over 3,500 feet, so we decided to backcountry camp in the Berry Hollow area. This was on a Tuesday night, and there were some cars in the parking area, but we didn't see a soul in the woods. Kind of surprising because it's a popular hike, but it was in late May while school was still in session. We found a sweet spot about 1.5 miles from the parking area and set up our tent. We didn't stay up late since we wanted an early start. I woke up in the middle of the night, and then I laid there for a minute trying to figure out why I woke up. I heard it then. Something was walking around the campsite. I sat up and listened, but I didn't panic. I figured it was a deer close by, so I laid back down. No growling or grunting, nothing to worry about, right? Toby slept right through it. It went quiet after a minute, and I fell back asleep. I told Toby about it the next morning. We both took a look around the campsite. There was an acrid smell in the air, and we figured maybe it was a buck marking its territory. That is until we saw the prints in the dirt at the edge of the clearing. It wasn't hooves, it was feet. It was very odd shape, tracks that neither one of us have ever seen before. They were bigger than our own feet, with claws on the end, but too skinny to be a bear's. There were only 4 toes and they were kind of spread out like a bird's foot is. We looked at it for a minute, but it was kind of smudged, so we couldn't really say for sure what it was. We didn't worry too much about it. We were psyched to begin our hike. It's just over a 5-mile hike to get from where we camped to the overlook. You gotta go down Weekly Hollow Fire Road for 2.5 miles, then turn onto Ridge Trail. From there, it's just shy of 3 miles to the overlook. It's real strenuous though. Even though we were doing this midweek, we wanted to start early because it got crowded. So we walked for a ways and everything seemed perfect. Great weather, nice woodsy trail. We carried day packs with snacks and water and stopped every now and then to take a break. When we turned onto Ridge Trail, it got more difficult. There's these areas in the woods where it's not obvious which way to go. We had read in the guidebook to look for blue paint marking the way, but we didn't see any of those marks. Maybe that's only on the rocks above the tree lines, I don't know. I was starting to think we got turned around. Then I saw a break in the tree line ahead, and I knew we were on the right track. I yelled to Toby, we're getting close, and to hurry up. He yelled back for me to go ahead and he'd catch up. He had to see a man about a horse. I cracked up, because that was so like him. But I went on ahead, getting to the first ridge above the tree line. It wasn't the summit, but all of a sudden you could see for a ways, and it was amazing. Then I hear Toby scream. Like, not a yell, but a scream of pain. I ran back as fast as I could, yelling his name. Looking back and forth on both sides of the trail, totally panicked. I saw his blue jacket through the brush on the side of the trail, and I ran to him. He was on the ground. He was bleeding and his jacket was all ripped. He was alive though, thank God. I thought it must have been a bear, and the hair on the back of my neck was all standing up as I yelled for help. Toby opened his eyes, and I could tell he was in a lot of pain. Blood wasn't spurting out, but it was slowly seeping. I pushed away his jacket to look, and he had a huge claw mark going down from his shoulder across his pecs to the left. I yelled for help again, and fished a windbreaker out of my pack, pressing it to the wound. He said something and I couldn't understand it at first. I realized he was saying, picture, phone, and then he passed out. I looked around and saw his phone, and picked it up and put it in my pocket. my mind going in a million directions. I needed to get help immediately, and there's no signal up there. I didn't think I could carry him out. I started yelling for help again, like every 5 seconds, and thankfully I got someone's attention. A man came by and I shouted for him to go get a ranger. My buddy's been hurt. There's a ranger stationed at the junction of Weekly Road and Ridge Trail. I checked and the wound was seeping blood, but I didn't think Toby was in danger of bleeding out. I kept one hand on the jacket pressing down and fished his phone out. I needed to see the picture. I was in shock when I opened the phone, and this picture popped up. It looks like a dinosaur. This thing was in the woods here with us. I was totally freaked out looking around, hoping it wouldn't come back. I didn't have to wait long for help to arrive. I just said I didn't know what attacked him. I needed them to focus on my buddy at that point, and to be honest, I was doubting my own eyes. I wanted to look at the picture real good before I told someone about it. They got Toby to the hospital, and I looked at the picture again. Unbelievable. The proof was right there. I hit share on his phone and sent a copy to myself. I then showed the picture to the ranger, who was there to take my statement. I told him that Toby had snapped it right before he was attacked. I also mentioned that something had been at our campsite the night before. Maybe this thing had been stalking us. I handed over the phone, waiting to see his face when he saw the creature. He totally shut down. No expression at all. He just said, okay. I need to hang on this to show my supervisor. I said, what is that thing? And he just said that they would investigate. Toby's okay. The biggest concern was infection, but they took good care of him. But you know what? The authorities somehow misplaced his phone. Yeah, of course they did. The official report says my buddy was attacked by a bear. Does this look like a bear to you? It was a cover-up, plain and simple. That ranger wasn't surprised. I bet he already knew about that creature. I'm glad I have proof, and now you guys do too. Okay, now let's take a closer look at this photo. The first thing that I notice is that the overall photo is pretty blurry. That could be explained due to the camera lens being a little bit blurry. They were out in the woods after all. Does that make the photo unauthentic? Not necessarily. The second thing is this beast did appear to come out of nowhere. There's a small clearing towards the top of the picture that it looks like it's coming down from. Now there are a few areas that I think are a little suspect. Take a look at the creature's feet. They are a little odd shaped. And then let's look at this creature's mouth. If this truly is authentic, I would never want to run into this thing. Its mouth looks absolutely terrifying. You can't really tell from the way the picture was taken what its face looks like. Those are just my observations. I would love to know what you guys all think in the comments below. Back in the day, me and my friends used to think it was entertaining to go out late at night and shoot at raccoons. I'm not proud of it now, but it was just what we did back then. It was part of the culture just to blast any undesirable critter. I grew up in the South in Arkansas, and raccoons were considered really big pests. I mean, they got into everything. The garden, the trash. We even had them try to come in through the screen of our kitchen window. Nobody would judge us for going out and shooting them. I'm a lot more considerate of animals now. If I even try to tell this story to my wife, I just get shut down as a barbaric fool. So I figured I would tell you what we went up against this one night. I never really had a chance to talk about this outside of those friends who were with me. We know what we saw, but sometimes we even start to question our own eyes. It was probably around October, back in maybe 2003 or so. We were fooling around, having some drinks and whatnot, and we decided to go coon hunting. Mostly we were just bored and didn't feel like going to bed yet. It was close to midnight and my parents were asleep. We started out like always down this trail behind my house. We went down this steep section full of sweet shrub towards this gully where we knew some ground burrows were. There were a lot of raccoons that lived down there. It wasn't too far from my house. There was a shallow stream down there, and we would see them drinking sometimes. We crossed over the stream and started walking up the hill. There is this good spot with a lot of big stones where we could kind of hide out. We settled in and took cover and scoped out the area. I had my shotgun across my knees. My friends didn't have theirs since we really hadn't planned this. We sat there trying to keep quiet. We were a little buzzed, so we kept bursting out laughing over nothing. We watched over any movement, but we didn't see anything at all. It actually seemed extra quiet that night. No crickets or anything. It started to get pretty cold, and we weren't exactly dressed for the weather. After about an hour of that, we decided we should give up and head back. I had this field spotlight with a hunting lens, and I thought I would take another look before we called it a night. I turned it on and we saw something about 20 feet away. It was on all fours with its nose on the ground. We couldn't tell if it was eating something or what. It sure wasn't any raccoon. The spotlight coming on didn't even seem to faze it at all, but it sure made it look towards us. That's when things got scary. It took a step towards us and lifted up on the two legs. It started growling this really low guttural growl. It stretched itself up and puffed out its chest. It had this really thick coat of fur around its neck. To me, it looked like it was at least 6 or 7 feet tall, and the claws on that thing were like 2 inches long. It bared its teeth, and it reminded me of my friend's Doberman Pinscher when it used to corner something. It even smelled like a really dirty, wet dog. We were all just staring at it, completely petrified. For a minute, it felt like a standoff. It took another step towards us, and I had my shotgun leveled. I fired a shot and hit that thing right in the side of its ribs. Usually hitting something that close with a 12-gauge shotgun would cause a big hole, and a typical animal wouldn't walk away from it. A spray of blood burst out of that creature, and it let out this loud yelp. But the shot didn't knock it down. We were shocked that it just started sprinting away and ran out of my circle of light. My friends were freaking out and yelling at me to shoot it again. I fired 2 more times at it, but it was so fast that it got out of my range really quick and I missed it. We got up and started following in the direction it ran. I mean, talk about fools. It's hard to believe how stupid we were when we were that young. We went for about 10 feet and found this large pool of blood. Then we went a little further and found a smaller pool of blood. We kept going and spotting footprints that we could follow. We eventually stopped and looked at each other and realized how stupid we were being. Plus, we didn't know if this thing traveled in packs or what. Who knows how many of them there could have been. The way it looked, we were thinking we had encountered a real-life werewolf. We started imagining that thing laying low for us and watching us, getting ready for its revenge. We were really scared by then and started heading mostly in the direction of my house. But every little sound would freak us out, and we would take cover wherever we could. It took us a long time to make it all the way back to my house, since we were convinced that that thing was watching us. We made it back and went to bed, and really never mentioned it to anybody. Like I said, I've tried to tell my wife, but I just start feeling like a fool. I'm hoping that somebody else hearing this will know what I'm talking about. It's so weird to have an experience like that, and know that most people will just think you're crazy. I'd like to just be honest here and tell you that I remember everything that happened that night. But the truth is, I'm still not exactly sure what happened. I'm from New Jersey and we go down the Wildwood, about an hour from me on the shore. Every summer I spend time on the beach and on the boardwalk. We usually go towards the end of the season. Just past Labor Day, there are fewer and fewer people out there, and it's easier to find a spot to set up your towel. It's still sunny and pretty hot during the day, but at night it can get kind of chilly. It's not the nicest area, but the prices are pretty cheap, and it's easy to have fun since there's so much to do. Anyways, my friends and I decided to go in together on a motel room. There were 5 of us and only 2 double beds, so it was pretty crowded in there. Somehow I got relegated to the pull-out couch, and that thing was super uncomfortable. The hotel was kind of sleazy and smelled like smoke and mold, but we were just trying to have a good time, you know? We were out hitting the beach bars and partying all day. So once we got back to the motel room, we were kind of wiped out. There wasn't much else to do, so everyone just wanted to head to bed so that we could get up early and hit the beach. We all laid down for bed like at 2 a.m. I started to hear snoring from my friends like a minute later, but I just couldn't fall asleep. I was tossing and turning for an hour when I decided I just needed to go for a walk. I put on my flip-flops and sweatshirt and headed out the door. It was pretty chilly out, and the wind was kind of brutal once in a while. There was a full moon, so the whole place had an eerie feeling to it. You can't see the stars when you're in the town, so I decided to head towards the beach so I could get a better look. I was starting to sober up, but I wasn't completely sober at that point. I still know what I saw, though. I walked out of the motel and down the road for a bit. No one was really out except for the people leaving the bars, and some strange vagabonds on the road. Once I got to the boardwalk, it got a bit more lively. There were some places still open, but I stuck with my plan of checking out the beach at night. The thing about Wildwood is the beach is really huge, and I don't mean width-wise. It's extremely long, and when you're walking to the water on a hot summer day, your feet will start to burn on the sand. Even during high tide, the walk can be almost 10 minutes if you're carrying all of your beach gear, shovels, and umbrellas. But while I was walking at night, it felt like it was super quick. No one else was out at that point, so when I got to the water's edge, I was surprised to see a figure in the waves. The moon was shining down on the waves as they broke. The white caps would sparkle. About 30 feet away in the water, I could see the outline of a person. It was kind of a vague form, and there wasn't much light to go by. I pulled out my phone and turned on my flashlight, as I called over to them to make sure they were okay. They were standing in the water, but it didn't make sense, because the water would be super deep, and it didn't even seem like they were struggling. The waves pulled back for a moment, and I realized that the person wasn't a person at all. The figure was really the tentacle of a squid or something. I don't know. I've never been a believer in sea monsters or anything like that. But it raised another tentacle out of the water, and I could see the suckers on the arm. It started to slide towards me on the shore, so I took a step back on the beach. The thing rose a bit out of the water, and I could see a big hump that I think was its head or its body. Then it ducked back down into the waves, and all that was left was a splash. I really don't know what that thing was. I tried to tell my friends, and they just thought I was crazy. They just don't get it. I know what I saw, and it was huge. Ever since, I've been too scared to go back in the ocean. And honestly, even pools get me a little nervous. If anyone has seen anything similar, I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for listening, and stay safe out there. Let me know what you think about these stories in the comments below. Also, make sure to check out dreadsarmy.com, where you'll find all of my stories and multiple strange and weird news posted every single day. If you want to be part of the discussion, check out the forums on Dread's Army. We also have a Facebook group so you don't miss out on any updates. Thanks and take care.